This happened a couple of years ago when I was on a late-night road trip with two of my friends. We were driving from Mumbai to this small town near the Western Ghats. It's a beautiful place during the day, full of forests, hills, and all kinds of wildlife. But at night, it can feel like a completely different world. We left around 8 p.m. The plan was to reach the town by midnight if we didn't stop too much. At first, everything was normal. There were a few trucks on the highway, and we had music playing, snacks in the car, just talking and laughing. The road was quiet, and besides the sound of insects outside, it felt peaceful. About 2 hours in, we were driving through a really remote stretch. There were trees on both sides, really thick ones, and no lights anywhere. It was just dark, like properly dark, the kind that makes your headlights feel useless. That's when we saw him. There was a man standing by the side of the road. At first, we thought he might be a villager or maybe someone whose vehicle broke down. He looked worn out, like he'd been walking for hours. He was wearing old dusty clothes and he wasn't moving, just standing still. We slowed down because it felt wrong to ignore someone out there in the middle of nowhere. I rolled down the window a little and called out, "Hey, are you okay? Need help?" He didn't respond, just stared. That stare, it gave me a weird feeling. It wasn't fear at first, just confusion. But then one of my friends leaned forward and whispered, "His eyes, they're completely black." I looked again, and yeah, they weren't just dark. They looked like hollow holes, no whites, no pupils, just black. That's when things started to feel really off. The air inside the car got cold, like instantly. I remember all three of us went silent. Nobody said a word for a few seconds. Then I just went, "Nope," and hit the gas. We drove off fast. Nobody looked back. We didn't even talk for a minute or two. It was like everyone was trying to process what we saw, but it didn't end there. As we kept driving, I started getting this weird feeling that we weren't alone in the car. You know that creepy sense you get, like someone's sitting right behind you? It was like that. My friend sitting in the front passenger seat even turned around and checked the back seat a couple times. Nothing, but the feeling wouldn't go away. Then the radio started acting up. It began switching stations on its own, like someone was spinning the dial. Static, bits of music, some weird voices. None of us were touching it. And the temperature, it dropped. You could see our breath inside the car. We checked the AC. It was off. Windows were closed. Still, it felt freezing cold in there. Way too cold for the weather outside. At that point, we were just done. We didn't say much, just kept our eyes on the road and hoped to reach the next town fast. After what felt like forever, we finally saw lights in the distance, the edge of the town. As soon as we crossed into the town area, it was like someone flipped a switch. The radio went back to normal. The cold vanished, and the weird, heavy feeling in the car was just gone. We pulled over near a small hotel to calm down. No one really wanted to talk about what happened until the next morning. Later, I brought it up with someone at a tea stall near the town center. I just asked casually, "Hey, is there anything weird about that forest road back there?" The guy gave me this look like he knew exactly what I was talking about. He said, "You took the forgotten path, didn't you?" Locals avoid it at night. Apparently people have seen things there. Mostly a man standing by the road, not moving, just staring. Sometimes travelers say he follows them or appears in the back seat. The old folks in the village believe it's a restless spirit of someone who died on that road a long time ago. I don't know what the real story is, but I do know I'm never taking that route again. Not during the day, and definitely not at night. It was late fall, and I was driving through a pretty remote part of Canada. I was on a long highway, miles away from any big city. The road was dark, and the only light came from my car's headlights cutting through the night. I had been driving for hours, listening to the radio and trying to stay awake. I was alone, just me in the open road. I wasn't really in a hurry, just enjoying the quiet of the drive. But my gas light came on. I knew I had to find a gas station soon. The next one was miles ahead, and the tank was almost empty. I kept looking for a sign. Then after what felt like forever, I finally saw a small sign flashing gas station on the side of the road. I took the exit and pulled up to the station. The gas station was small, way smaller than I expected. There was just one gas pump out front and a tiny convenience store that looked pretty old. The neon sign above the door flickered in a way that made me think the whole place hadn't been updated in decades. When I stepped out of the car, the cold hit me hard. The air was freezing, and a sharp wind blew through the parking lot. It was late at night, and everything felt quiet. Too quiet. I zipped up my jacket and walked inside to pay. Inside, the store was dimly lit. The walls were lined with dusty shelves filled with snacks and drinks. There was a man behind the counter, probably in his 40s or 50s. He looked tired and didn't smile or say much. He just took my money and handed me a receipt without making eye contact. There were two other customers inside, both older men. They were sitting at a small table near the back, quietly drinking coffee. They didn't say a word, and they didn't look at me. The silence in the store was heavy. It made me feel a little uncomfortable, like I had walked into a place where people didn't really want to be disturbed. I tried to shake off the feeling and went back outside to pump my gas. As I was filling my tank, I noticed one of the older men from inside get up and walk outside. He stood just outside the front door, staring right at me. The way he looked at me gave me the creeps. His eyes were glassy and vacant. He didn't blink, and he didn't move much. He just stared. It felt like he wasn't really there, like he was somewhere else but watching me. I tried to ignore him and focused on finishing up, but the feeling of being watched didn't go away. It made me nervous, and I kept looking over at him out of the corner of my eye. Then something happened that made me freeze. The lights in the parking lot flickered. For a second, everything went dark except for the faint glow of the neon sign above the store. It was sudden, like someone had flipped a switch. I could barely see my hand in front of my face. When the lights came back on, the man was gone. I looked all around the parking lot, but there was no sign of him anywhere. I checked behind the store, near the pump, even across the street, but he had disappeared. The clerk was still inside, standing behind the counter like nothing had happened. He didn't say a word or react to the lights flickering or the man disappearing. I finished filling my tank as quickly as I could and got back in my car. As I started driving away, I kept looking in my rearview mirror, expecting to see the man again, but there was no one there. Even though nothing else strange happened, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. It wasn't just the man, it was the whole place. The silence, the dark, the flickering lights. It all made me feel like I had stepped into a place stuck in time, or maybe something more unsettling. A few days after my trip, I stopped at a diner in a small town and mentioned the gas station to the owner. She told me that the place had a reputation. Years ago, a man who stopped there disappeared without a trace. Since then, people sometimes reported seeing a figure standing outside late at night, silently watching travelers who stopped to fill up. Some people thought it was a ghost. Others said it was just a story people told to keep strangers away. I don't know what I saw that night. Maybe it was just my imagination. Maybe I was tired or the cold made me see things. But even now, years later, the memory still sticks with me.